Science can kill. Drop a flower pot on someone's head, gravity, dead. Send a bullet through someone's skull, Newton's first and second laws, dead. Drop nuclear bombs, dead. Accidentally inhale poison gas that was meant for industrial use, also dead. Simply put, humans are diabolical beings. We study science knowing full well that it can destroy us. It can shave off our flesh, melt our bones, and burn our nerves, and could ruin our entire lives. And that is exactly why we have limitations and ethics, the invincible rules keeping us from turning knowledge into chaos. But at times, there are these not so called, they are literal idiots who don't follow those rules. Self centered idiots who think they're always right and won't listen to a single word anyone says. You know, like those typical story characters who like charge at you with a sword just because you're labeled the villain. Like, dude, listen to what I have to say first. Like, listen, please, just listen. Anyways, what do you think would happen if one of those idiots, dressed in a lab coat, decided to teach fear to a baby? My name is Aya Arashi, and I talk about the darker, stranger corners of psychology and human curiosity. So if you like stories that make you question how far humans can go in the name of science, then stick around. Because this one gets dark very fast. This is the Little Albert experiment. They called it a study on emotional conditioning, but in reality, it's more like a baby's introduction to Fear 101. John B. Watson and Rosalie Rayner, two scientists at Johns Hopkins, chose an 11-month-old baby. Because he didn't cry much. That's literally the only reason for them to choose the little child. They put him in a room with white walls, a white little rat, and an intricate plan to scare the living heebie-jeebies out of the child. Like every time little Albert reached out to touch the rat that was placed right in front of his eyes, they slammed the metal bar behind him, loud enough to make the child cry. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. Of course he's gonna cry if you bang, or even I'd freaking cry if you bang a loud rod behind my ears. Like, that would be scary. Like, I'd at least flinch. So he cried. They comforted him. Like a freaking normal person, they comforted him and assured him that there is nothing wrong. That's a good thing, okay? If they'd stopped there, that would have been a good thing. And when the baby happily reached out to the rat once again, they did it again. They banged the metal rod. They repeated the hypocritical process of scaring the child and soothing him over and over again, as if the child was just another little rat in a cage. Just another test subject. Just another lab rat. Little Albert was now afraid. He wasn't afraid at the noise, but he was afraid of the little rat in front of him. He was afraid, terrified at the rat, terrified at anything that resembled the rat. He cried at the sight of a rabbit, a fur coat, even a Santa mask with a white beard. Fear was taught to a baby who couldn't consent to anything, to a baby who couldn't say no, to a baby who didn't even understand the feelings that were surging within his soul. They called it research. They called it an experiment for the greater good, for the advancement of science. But honestly, this is just plain cruelty. But tell me, what kind of science forgets the soul of the subject it studies? What kind of science ignores the problem caused by its own actions? If the advancement of science requires a human sacrifice, then what's the point? Science is meant for human survival, not its death. But the sad truth is that they proved that fear can be taught in their own twisted ways. Like, they proved it. But they never untaught it. They never brought him back to to like heal the very fear they created within the child's soul. They just moved on, published their papers, presented their findings, and left behind a crying child and a silent rat. And the worst part, we don't even know what happened to him. No one knows if Albert ever overcame his fear, or if he lived his whole life flinching at the sight of anything soft and white. That's what happens when curiosity doesn't have a limiter. And unfortunately, we did learn something. No, it's not about fear, but we learned something about humanity. And experiments like this are the reason science has ethics now. This is why psychologists talk about consent, trauma, and care. And why do you think we remember little Albert? Like, not to praise the discovery of, fear being taught to a child, but to make sure that it never happens again. That another child or another person, another human being doesn't have to go through the same twisted things the child went through. We learned that. We learned how to be more human. Because science can kill, but it can also heal. It can teach us how to undo the pain we once caused. And maybe that's what real progress is. Not learning new things, but learning to do things better. So, yeah, traumatizing babies, not cool. But learning to make things better, I think that's what science is all about. So, if you've got any creepy stories or psychological twists you want me to cover in the next video, just drop them in the comments and I'll talk about it sometime. And subscribe so you don't miss the next one at least. My name is Aoi Arashi. Aoi Arashi 40NX. Signing off.
Very fast.